women's number one attraction circuitry is not being met. Why women might appear on the outside to be so hot and cold, it's because we don't really know who you are.
As an adult, we don't give people enough of a chance to develop that.
If I can encourage women to do anything, it would be to have patience. You know, you might not feel the initial spark, and that doesn't necessarily attribute to compatibility.
The algorithm is feeding men, saying that women are the problem. The same algorithm is feeding women that men are the problem.
What do you have control over? You or her? If it's you, then you start there. Because here's the thing, the thing that turns women off the most is neediness, right? Women don't want a man that is needy on them. The way you talk to yourself is the way you show up in the world. One way of kind of navigating the world where everyone's dating everyone and also simultaneously not dating anyone, a way that you can look at it is...
Jamie, you're a very successful dating coach. You have helped tons of people, just especially men, figure out their dating life through either your content, your courses, and even coaching. And I feel that you have a pretty good pulse in society, especially because, again, you are exposed to either girlfriends of yours and men that you coach. Mm-hmm. Explain to me, like I'm 5, what is going on in the dating world? Why are some people suffering or struggling, and how do we get here?
So we got here because... women's number one attraction circuitry is not being met. And I say that to say, men's number one attraction circuitry is physical appearance, right? It's not the thing, it's the only attraction circuitry, but it is the thing that gets the door open, right? Men are like light switches. You're turned on, you're turned off just by, if she looks good, okay? Yeah. Women, it's not that simple, right? It's almost as if we're like a dimmer, you can either turn it bright or you can turn it down a little bit, But our number one attraction circuitry is not being fulfilled. So, and I'll kind of go down the top 3 things that women are looking for. So, number 3 is kindness, right? Okay. And kindness is being met. Number 2 is intelligence, and the fastest way to demonstrate intelligence is humor.
All right. Okay.
Right, but the number 1 is a man's circumstance. Who that man is in his environment. Right? How valuable is he? Does he, add value to the spaces and lives and the community around him? Right? We, over time, just like with evolution, men have found women that are younger and healthier, physically fit, right? Attractive because they can bear children, they can be a mother for longer. But with women, over evolution, we have learned that men that provide value can allocate resources.
True.
So now that we live in a world where everything is so isolated. We go to work. A lot of people work from home. They go to the gym, they go home. They don't really have social lives. There's not really a lot of places for us to commune where we don't have to spend a lot of money, right? That women don't get to see men in their power anymore. We don't get to see who you are in your environment. So it's almost the equivalent of like, if we were in Dubai or somewhere in the middle where all the women are wearing burqas. Men, especially Western men, would not be so thrilled to get on the apps and start dating because they don't even see what the women looks like, right? Because that's their number one attraction circuitry. Women, our number one attraction circuitry is hidden. So we often don't know if we're attracted. This is why women might appear on the outside to be so hot and cold. It's because we don't really know who you are anymore.
That's a very interesting approach. And the way that you put it, right? The reason why I'm asking is I was in a long-term relationship for 9 years. I was married, and then I got divorced. So last time that I quote-unquote dated was 2013. Mm-hmm. During my relationship, I was oblivious of what's happening. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Once everything fell apart, early 2023, I started being exposed to more content around dating. Mm-hmm. And even my single friends, I started just talking more about that. And I had no idea what's happening. Because to me, when I faced this new reality, none of it made sense. Mm-hmm. None of it. Because it's way different from 10, 12, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to figure it out exactly what's going on. To me, I felt, and this is from outside perspective, somebody who hasn't dated, who's not been out there in the dating markets yet, that people have built like bad habits around dating. So I don't know. To me, first of all, I don't agree with the dating apps. To me personally, I feel that it seems like it's not working. Beginning of 2024, went to 3 speed dating events just to get more research about it because I wasn't even open to data at that point, but I wanted to know more. And I probably spoke with 30 men before the event and 24, 25 women after. All of them were saying, yeah, dating sucks, and the only place is dating apps, and they still suck. What have you found, I guess, either from your girlfriends or guys you coach, that is happening here? Because I do feel that you have a lot of women that want to find love and relationship, and a lot of men as well. And somehow, some way, outside what you just explained, something's not happening there. And I still don't understand why.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it is tough. It's tough because, again, there's not a lot of public places where people are free to commune. And that is one of the biggest issues that we are facing right now in modern dating, right? So, like, for example, I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming you're relatively something similar to my age.
33.
Yeah, okay, so because I'm 34. So if you were dating in 2012, 2013, you just graduated college, right? Most people meet their match, meet their partner around that age. Why? Women get to see you in your social circle. This is when men have the height of their social circle, usually out of high school and out of college. You're doing things, you're studying, she sees you on your mission, she sees the trajectory of where you're at. It's very inspiring. You are exactly arousing my number one attraction circuitry. I get to see you in your environment, right? Around your social circle, all that stuff. Growing up or even getting older, right? Another place that people used to meet, work. Women get to see men in their power, at the work, doing work, adding value to the spaces around them. The people, the older that you get, you'll notice that the people that are finding love and finding marriage are the men that have a lot going on in their lives outside of just, work, or they're actually building this life this lifestyle, I should say, that the woman feels excited to be a part of. Right? These men are not just going to work, gym, and home. They usually have events that they're going, events that they're throwing, hobbies that they're participating in. Like, they have circles around them that the women get to observe. So how do we get over this? One thing that men, and I'm not saying that women can just sit there and look pretty, they also have to do their work, but because we are addressing men, and I am a dating coach for men, I'm going to address them, because that's the only person you can control, is, if you're a man. But when it comes to men, the best thing that you can do is be the observed, not the observer.
Okay.
Be the observed, not the observer. Put yourself out there. Because here's the thing. Going back to evolution, again, why are men attracted to young women? Because they can be mothers, right? It's not judging it. It is what it is, right? Regardless if you want kids, your natural biology will be attracted to something like that, period. Women, we want to see a man who can allocate resources. Now, sometimes that looks like money, but in reality, it also looks like someone that is able to have emotional connections, because again, that's also going to be something that's going to help allocate resources. Even if there is no apocalyptic moment where we need resources all of a sudden, right? But again, it goes to our attraction circuitry. Okay. Right? And so when a woman sees a man be brave, put himself out there, and being vulnerable, and vulnerable can look like something as simple as telling a joke, not knowing if it's going to land. I'm not saying being vulnerable is just like, oversharing and crying about a situation to people who have not earned that, side of you. There's some mistakes there. But when it comes to with women, like, women want to see you in your power, and a lot of men are very afraid, or they've gotten very comfortable staying in their own little cocoon. And that's going to be the thing that really derails and gets away from women's number one attraction circuitry.
You pointed out the emotional connection, right? And I think I do believe that might be one of the biggest issues. Now, when I talk to, I have a number of female friends, a couple of them are single, a couple of them already are in a relationship. They said that they had just bad experiences on a first date. And to me, it's like, well, if you're meeting people on a dating app, you don't know this person, you're probably both of you feel awkward, feel nervous. Like, I'm trying to figure out who you are. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I should behave. And it's not that I'm not being authentic, but I'm carrying a lot of filters. To me, the way I see it is almost like a DJ board, and I have levers. Yeah. So I started to playing around. Say, okay, let me gauge what Jamie thinks. And it's hard to create a spark or a vibe when you're both nervous. And most of them don't even give a second shot because, well, I didn't feel it. It's the same thing with friendship. Why it's so hard to make friends as an adult? We don't give people enough of a chance to develop that. And I do believe, and that's why I keep asking people around, what is going on? It seems like people are too afraid of making the wrong choice. So if they don't feel this is the right one, whether it's a guy or girl, you know what? I'm just going to go and just find someone else, or let me keep looking around. What have you seen based on either your own experience, what men are doing right or wrong, and based on what men have told you, what women are doing either right or wrong?
Yeah. So I will say women, if I can encourage women to do anything, it would be to have patience. You know, you might not feel the initial spark, and that doesn't necessarily attribute to compatibility. And that's because, again, the number one attraction circuitry that would cater to a spark really isn't there, because me seeing you on a dinner date isn't me seeing you who you are in your life, right? And again, that lifestyle is really simple. You know, a woman's beauty to a man is a man's lifestyle to a woman, right? I'll quote Orion Taraban, who wrote The Value of Others, great book, by the way. I recommend it to anyone who has, you know, reading dating books. But anyway, he goes, you know, in a very simplistic terms, men want Barbie, women want everything Ken comes with, right? We want the lifestyle, and that's going to be our attraction circuitry, right? Now, the pro of that is that, you know, men, once you've earned that lifestyle, it's yours by right. It's very hard to take it away from you. The con is, you know, you got to work for it. Now, with women, the pro is that we kind of just show up and look pretty, so it's easier for us on the front end. The con is, you know, we can make the wrong choice and be stuck with that choice, right? We can get pregnant, we can get, you know, attacked, you know, God forbid. Like, these are real realities that women have to go through. And also with age, we lose value over age, regardless of how great we are. You know what I mean? And so in that, by taking that into consideration, like, yes, men and women, it's both easy and hard for us. And it's just like, where in the timeline are we talking about? It may be easier for women on the front end, harder for us on the back end, harder for men on the front end, easier for them on the back end if they achieve it. Now, when it comes to, your question was?
What a thing. Okay, yeah, I needed to remember what men, based on your own dating experience, what men are doing wrong, right and wrong, and and based on your clients are saying what women are doing right or wrong in the dating scene, at least.
So with women, it's patience. You know, patience, understanding that, hey, listen, I might not get my number one attraction trigger because I don't get to see this man in his lifestyle. So maybe if I, you know, kind of forgive some things and let him show me what ends to unfurl, you know, like his lifestyle that unfurls, okay, this could appeal to my attraction circuitry a little bit later on down the line, right? With men, I think that they're so afraid of judgment. And I don't mean judge, and we like to think it's judgment on women, like fear of rejection, but really it's also judgment from other male peers. Because here's the thing, you know, the thing that turns women off the most is neediness, right? Women don't want a man that is needy on them, because it goes against the natural masculine, feminine energy fields, right? We want a man that is self-reliant. And that doesn't mean he needs to, you know, forgo his emotions and everything like that. But when it comes to him being a leader, right, that means that he you know, to be reliant on his emotional needs solely on one woman, that's a lot of emotional labor for us, that women, to take on. And because the reality is that women, you know, we have emotional connections with many different relationships. We have lots of deep friendships, right? And so one way that I foresee modern dating being saved, outside of the destroyment of social media and dating apps, but
yeah, I agree with
that. But one way that I see modern dating being saved is men need to befriend other men, actually have deeper connections with them, relying on each other for emotional connection, so that they're not fully reliable on their woman to do so. Because what's happening is this: women without dating, we're more or less fine, to be honest. As much as, you know, the manosphere wants to tell us we're not, reality is that women are kind of kicking it. You know, if anything, we're affording more houses, we're getting paid more, we have more college education. Like, we are up leveling in every capacity. Men, we're losing you guys. We're losing you guys. And that's a big why of why I got into this, is I don't want to see any more men lost, because when they are not getting that emotional connection from women, they retreat to no one but themselves.
Yeah. Yep. The reason why a guy or a man has like is 5 times more likely to commit suicide after a breakup or divorce is because your only emotional support is no longer there. And I experienced that. I isolated myself for a year and a half. I just like, yeah, I would still be working out, interacting with people, but I was isolated. I mean, I went through deep depression, and I understand that. Having real connections with men, I see that hard. To me, what I've developed is female friendships in a terms so that I can not about this is what I'm going through, like a what you guys call girl talk, but I can just have deeper conversations with them that I cannot have with a lot of men. Now, maybe it's emotional intelligence, maybe I have no idea. I have no clue. But to me, I feel like I can, in fact, 2 weeks ago, I just went out with one of my female friends, and she's in a relationship and all of that. We went for coffee. We just talked for 3-4 hours, and that to me is like, okay, I might have something similar with a couple of guys friends I have, but I cannot hit that level of depth. Now, one thing that I've seen is this constant attack between men and women on social media, right? Men are the algorithm is feeding men saying that women are the problem. The same algorithm is feeding women that men are the problem. And to me, it's like, instead of trying to understand the other side, you pointed out, women are kicking ass. Women are doing all of the things. They're getting good jobs and all that. To me, it's awesome. You guys deserve that. A lot of men, they feel, well, that's a masculine woman. To me, I don't see it that way. If you have a goal or a dream of being a highly successful woman, I'm a very ambitious guy. I cannot tell you what you should strive for, whatever. If that's your goal, like, go for it. I mean, life is one. What I don't understand, and I feel, and this is going to land probably wrong in some men, when men are blaming women to be too masculine, you're just too afraid of, if the only thing I can provide is money or financial stability, if that is out of the question, that woman can walk away at any time. You lose that control.
Right.
But are you trying to build that, or are you trying to build something that connects both of you? And women feel, based on biology, evolution, hypergamy, I'm going to date up, because for thousands of years, you guys couldn't work, you couldn't hunt, but now it's not necessary for you to go, like a level up. You can still have your some level or lower, but it's hard to get rid of that impulse. So to me, I feel that once you understand and have empathy for the other gender, it's okay. As you said, men, we have it hard at the beginning, and I'd rather have it that way, because then I build the skills to kicking life down the road. Women, I wouldn't want to be a woman, even though it's easier early on, but then I cannot be, I'll be too stressed with the
biological clock.
Yeah, I'll be too stressed about it. So to me, it's like, okay, if you're a woman, it's also in your control to trying to find a guy, to just have more patience. And as you said, patience, but also, hey, you don't know, try to invest early rather than wait until the final product is done. Because once the final product is done, a man being super successful, probably he's going to screw around or sleep around because he can afford it. So I don't know what your thoughts are, how I see, as you said, I do agree with you a lot that if you didn't have social media and dating app, things would be a lot easier, but they're not.
It's funny that the thought process is a man that is very rich by default would go out and probably sleep around because he can afford it. When in reality, more men that are very successful, you don't really see them as playboys. They're always married. They're always married to actually someone usually around their age, maybe a little younger. Of course, there's exceptions, but for the most part, right? And it's because of a man, a real man, truly knows the value of women. One of my favorite, a great coach friend of mine, Emily Romano, she told me this once, and I'll never forget it. She said, women truly are like vaginas, where we're multipliers. We multiply. So if you're building a business, if you're creating something and you invite me into your life, a woman that's in her healed divine feminine, I should say, not a gold digger, but we're not talking about those because those are a minority. But most healed women, I'm going to multiply that vision, baby. Like, let's do it. Like, I'm going to, and that could look like, okay, I'm going to cook the dinner and I'm going to clean, or it's also going to look like I'm going to be your business partner. That's also going to look like, whatever that might look like. But but men, statistically speaking, do better in long-term relationships and in marriage. But also to your point, women, while great relationships are great, also oftentimes find themselves on the wrong ship, to quote The Value of Others again. And this is why women struggle with, I forgot the exact number, but X amount of more times autoimmune diseases, because they hold a lot of the emotional weight of the relationship and the family. In this country, unfortunately, women are expected to work as if they are not a parent and parent as if they don't have work. And therefore, we have to be hyper vigilant on our choices. But to go back to your point, blaming, right? And trust me, I've been doing this long enough, I can argue both sides of that coin all dang day. I can tell you why it's very hard for men, and I can tell you why it's very hard for women. But the better question is that argument helpful? Is it actually going to get you anywhere of where you want to go? So my argument is this. Whoever has it harder, doesn't matter. What do you have control over? You or her? If it's you, then you start there. It's almost like the chicken or the egg. If you're an egg, if you're a woman, then start with the woman. It's her fault, so I got to get better, right? If you're a man, it's my fault. I got to get better. That's the only way we're going to grow. Who cares who has it worse? Because that just tells me there's a lack of empathy. And the men that are usually screaming that don't have any women in their lives. Because if they had more women in their lives, they would understand what they also have to go through. And if they do have more women in their lives and the women really aren't talking about that, then they're also not presenting a vulnerable environment to where women feel comfortable being like, oh my God, I went on this terrible date the other day, and this guy cheated on me and he did this and he did that. No, men are, and women are also doing this too. We're going into our own echo chambers and just complaining about the other side. And for me, again, women especially, you want to talk about manifesting? In the same breath, women will say, oh, I manifest. And then they'll talk about how much they hate all men. And I'm like, you're doing it. You're doing it right now.
That's exactly one of my main points, that we have been conditioned by probably social media to think that way. And when you blame, look, I think people are stuck not because they're victims of the circumstances. Like in case of men, well, there are no good women out there. They're all gold diggers. To me, by the way, the definition of gold diggers to me is if a woman wants like a very nice lifestyle, but doesn't want to have children, that's a gold digger. If you want to have like a great lifestyle, but still have children, I don't see you as a gold digger because you're planning to give the best opportunities to your offspring. So even if you're looking to be to date a millionaire, but your goal is to provide your children with the best possible life, it's hard for me to call you a gold digger. That is just my opinion, right? But if men think, okay, women are gold diggers, or women are for the streets, or women are this, or women are that, and women think, well, they're not good men out there. They're lame. Their bar's never been so low. They're cheaters, blah, 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 blah. I think they're just victim of perception, of the false narrative they have built around in their minds. Like, instead, your brain will just show you what you believe in. It's like we filter out most, like 99.9% of what we perceive. So if I believe that there are no women out there, my brain will just filter out something that goes against my belief. If it goes against my belief, it's not going to show it to me. And as you said, women that are very, very smart and they're very much into manifesting and all of this, I think that they say that they hate men. Or one issue I have with my younger sister, she's 24, like, men are not people. It's like, brother, what are we talking about, right? It's like,
she says men are not people?
Yeah, go figure. Yeah, she doesn't live here. She lives in Denmark. But for her, it's like, I had an argument with her like last year for like 3 hours. Like, you need to change your mindset around. But I think that a lot of, in her case, she's just afraid of men, which I don't understand how or why, because my dad, my brother, and I were good. I think she was maybe social media. I have no idea. But the point here is that if that's what you believe, that's what you're going to be exposed to. And women, I think that are just afraid of saying that they need a man, because feminism say that you don't need a man. It's not that we need it. Well, we kind of need each other. It's just reality. And for men, you said that the men need to build a lifestyle, which is sometimes hard because then subconsciously we believe that we earn love, that love is earned through achievement. So if we achieve something, then I earn love. Therefore, I'm not going to pursue anybody if I haven't built my empire, or whatever that looks like.
To your point, women might also be, I cannot earn love unless I'm beautiful. So you know what I mean? Again, I can argue this all fucking day. But let me kind of take you back here and maybe open your eyes a little bit more to your sister's perspective. Mm-hmm. So I want to challenge you on something that you said, right? Mm-hmm. So my brother, you know, as a brother and as my father, we were fine. So why would she be afraid of men? Let me ask you this. If you were in the woods with a grizzly bear, and this is not going to be the bear or the man story, but a grizzly bear that can attack you, right? Mm-hmm. He's bigger than you, okay? Even if he's full and you know doesn't look hungry, are you going to be more aware of it, or is it going to be more aware of you?
I mean, more aware of
it, right? Because you're bigger. Or mm-hmm. I'm sorry, the bear is bigger than you. Yeah, this is what women have to go through. You are bigger than us. You can attack us. 1 in 3 women have reported sexual assault, and we cannot ignore that fact. That is a reality. The other thing, too, is outside of physical attack, right? And this is something that women need to realize that they're doing, too. So I'm not just throwing men under the bus. Women, by and large, will not have sex with a man unless there's any sort of emotional intimacy or something, you know, a relationship down the line, a promise of commitment down the line, right? So men will do what in order to get sex? They will lie.
Yeah.
They will lie.
Yeah.
Especially a younger, especially around the 24 age. So her reality is valid and your reality is valid. So my advice is to meet her where she's at. If she's afraid of men, that's not an attack on you or your father. That's a real perception and lived experience of all men that could potentially do harm. I mean, here's the thing. And going back to like the bear or the man argument, you know, it's like I love the whole, you know, when you ask like, oh, like why would you choose a man, you know, instead of a bear, right? Mm-hmm. And then you ask, okay, well, what if your daughter was would you prefer her with a bear or a random man? Then all of a sudden it shifts a little bit because you don't know that man.
True.
So that's the other thing both genders have to stop doing is categorizing all genders into one person. We are more like each other on an individual basis. Like you and I are probably more similar than all my fellow women and all of your fellow men. We have to get better at individualizing. Also, I think women would feel more safe, and I truly believe this. Women would feel more safe if beautiful, healing, safe men like you would speak to the fact that not all men think like you, and could hear you holding other men accountable for actions that are very harmful to us. Because women have come from long lines of being gaslit, of like, oh, well, you know, what were you wearing? And, you know, I mean, you fill in the blank, right? You know? And I think that if more men, again, like you, stood up and said, listen, men out here can be skeezy. I get it, you know? But let's open our eyes to other possibilities and make sure that your energy is inviting safe men into your life. And I'm going to help you do that. That might be a really good way of having her come around. Because the reality is that we as daters, people who are single, right? It's hard for everybody. And the longer that we sit in this who has it worse debate, we're just running around in circles, my friend.
Oh, it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless. Now, a quick point going to my sister. To me, it's funny because she has some male friends. And I said, how about him? No, he doesn't count. How about me? No, you don't count. It's like, so you have good men. So I was trying to tell her, say, hey, you are exposed. I think she's more into feminine men, I guess, if she were going to date someone. Because I think that she feels safer, which I understand and I respect that. Hey, if that's how you feel. Now she's like a small friend. She's very kind of shy, introverted. So I get it.
How do you define feminine men?
I think for her is not. I guess for her is
call her up. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's like 11 p.m. It's kind of like Harry Styles, for instance. For her, it's like more that it's not that he's girly, but it's not.
Oh, the croquette.
he's not I don't know, like Henry Cavill or one of those, right? Like, it just, what I'm trying to say is she's more into that, and I was like, okay, I mean, I don't have any issues with that, but I was trying to help her change her view, because in her mind she's like, oh, men have it easier, and it's just, they're all going, it's like, it doesn't matter who have it, both of us have it
Right.
hard, so what is the point of keep arguing about it? To me, it just futile. It's like, it's pointless to do that. As you say, yeah, women struggle, men struggle. Okay, what are we going to do about it? And to me, it felt like, or feel, I believe that dating shouldn't be this hard. I will see once I go back into dating. But the reason, to me, I feel this way, because the way that I've approached dating all my life has been, if I'm drawn to someone, I'm drawn to the person, whether it's a guy or girl, for intellectual connection or something. I just want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Every person that I brought on the podcast, even you, it's like, something about you is like, okay, you draw me to you. It's like, okay, I know that I'm going to have like a cool conversation with this person. And that could build into a friendship, or that could build just, almost every conversation I've had on the podcast been incredible.
Right.
And it's just because I only choose the people I talk to. Now, if that develops into something else in the future, great. But I'm not banking on that. I'm banking on creating that connection and that friendship. And that's what happened with my ex-wife, and happened with some exes before. I never went on a first date or asked somebody out that I didn't know. I built a friendship first. And it's not the typical, okay, let me be friends and see if I can get something about her. No. To me, if we date, that means cherry on top. If that person, quote unquote, friends on me, I don't care, because to me, that meant that she wasn't for me anyway. To me, it's like, I still want to keep the friendship, because that's my angle. And if people heal that on, it's like, to me, friends before lovers create the best relationships, in my opinion. But again, I'm biased towards that. But also, I think that is happening a lot, is that dating multiple people at the same time. I don't necessarily agree with that. To me, that's something that I've been telling both my male friends and female friends who are singles, like, I don't agree with this. I feel that you find somebody that might have 70% of what you're looking for. And then it's like, what if I can get to 80? What if I get to 85? And then you put that person on the side, and then just keep chasing, keep looking for a different one. And it's going to be hard for you to make a choice, because you don't want to make that one choice. Therefore, you're constantly dating. And when you finally, quote unquote, settle, then it's not the person that you could have been before. So I don't know what your thoughts about it are.
I think there's an opportunity to look at this another way. I think that there's always two schools of camp, right? One is, okay, I'm going to date one person at a time and see how that feels, and that's fine and noble. But the option of going back online dating, or, going back out there and still talking, because again, dating is different than we're boyfriend and girlfriend now, right? Dating still kind of means the talking phase, which technically I could be talking to other people, right? So the option is always still there, even if you're dating one person at a time, right? It's an easy transition to go back to online dating or whatever, right? Or you can think about it as like everything else, right? We're taught to try a lot of different things to see what we like, to see what we not like. And women, because we have that biological clock, it might behoove us to date multiple people at once, because we have a time limit that you guys don't. Now, again, either way, when it comes to romance, the world is a jungle gym, not a ladder. There's multiple ways up. You know what I mean? There's not, that's always what I say. It's like, attraction is an art, not a science. 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4, right? Another way that we can look at this, another way that we can reframe this is, instead of asking, okay, what is that person giving me, right? She's blonde, tall, she's skinny, she's, this, that, with girls, like, he's rich, he's handsome, he's, funny, whatever, all those things. And those are great. But a better question is, who am I when I'm around that person? How am I showing up when I'm around that person? Am I anxious all the time, or feeling like I'm walking on eggshells because she's so pretty? Well, that relationship seems like a freaking nightmare on the back end, because you're always walking around eggshells even though she's gorgeous. Same thing with women. Oh my God, he's so rich, he's so funny, he's this. But I kind of always feel like he's texting some other girls, or he's, what? Well, you're anxious all the time. That also seems like a freaking nightmare. So again, one way of kind of navigating the world where everyone's dating everyone and also simultaneously not dating anyone a way that you can look at it is, okay, how am I showing up? Do I like the person that I am around that person? Because that's going to be very different from person to person to person. So if you really love the person that is showing up when you're around them, keep scratching that itch. And then something that I teach my clients is it really calls back into three things, right? I call it the triangle of choice, right? If you're trying to choose the right partner, okay? I keep it real simple. I used to do the lists of all the like, I gotta have it, I must have it. I kind of forego that because the reality is that you're never gonna find anyone that has all of those things on that list. You just won't.
Yeah, you might need to say that louder because I think that both men and women just.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah. I mean, listen, and besides, we're inundated with everyone's highlight reel, so we're assuming again our limbic system doesn't understand that what's in our screen is not reality. So when we see everyone else getting all these things, we think, oh, well, we should have it too, right? And so the reality is yeah, I mean, you're never, if you have this list that you're stuck on, the reality is that you're probably not going to find someone that has all of those things. So someone that could be very good for you, you're going to go back to that list and go, meh, but she's not this or he's not that or da-da-da, and then you're just going to be right back to where you started. So I made it very simple. 3 things. 1, to think. Do we have the same values? Can I have deep philosophical conversations with you if that's my bag? Do we have, conversations where, I can come to you about my issues and I feel validated? Can you do that for me? Can we hold space for each other, right? That's all to think. To laugh is the second one. Do we have the same humor? Do we laugh together the same? Do we, do the same similar activities, the friendship part, right? Mm-hmm. Do we have the same hobbies? And the last one is to lust. Does she look good to me? Do I look good to her? Do we continue to look good for each other? Hitting that gym, eating healthy. Do we have similar kinks in the bedroom? Are we compatible in the bedroom? Right? So you can have one of these things and you might get a one-night stand. You can have 2 of these things and you might be friends with benefits situation. But when you have all 3, I really believe that you should flesh that out. Keep going, And that's where that patience kicks in. Let that person, especially on the woman's side, let her see the man that you are. So women, the patience. It's going to take time to really get that number 1 attraction trigger if you are meeting this man through things like online dating, cold approach, or a singles event. Because again, we have to remember our number 1 attraction circuitry is who that man is in his community. That's the number 1 thing that we lack now, community. So if I had to blame someone, it's not men, it's not women. It's how, late stage capitalism, right? The patriarchy ruins it for everyone. We need more communal spaces. We need social circle. We need lifestyle, because if men had a social circle, if men kept up with their social circle like they did when they were in high school and college, dating is very easy. But it's funny, I was talking to my dad about this the other day. And he said something that really, stuck with me. And he goes, it's funny, I remember when I was dating, and you'd hang out with your buddies, and you go to a bar, and you try and, meet women. Really, you're hanging out with your buddies just long enough until you meet the woman to where you can just be with her now. And he goes like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying like, this is how men like me thought. I'm like, wow, like, so again, if I can encourage men to do something too, it's to not look at other male friendships as placeholders until you get into a relationship and then kind of forget about them. With as much sense of urgency to continue those relationships with men, the friendships with men, and that's the other thing too is, and I don't just mean going to a bar and watching football because that's very shallow level friendship. It's doing things. So like one thing that you said earlier is, I don't really see a lot of men. I don't foresee men, having that deep connection, right? Mm-hmm. And the reality is that you wouldn't. So the work of Brene Brown, she talks about vulnerability breeds depthness. You cannot have a deep relationship without vulnerability. You just can't. And what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is, again, being your authentic self. And really the challenge of getting to your authentic self is putting yourself through uncomfortable or tough situations, things that are not so comfortable and numb, right? So like, for example, the strongest male relationships, You ever see war buddies come back from, where they were at? You ever seen, athletes that are on the same team? You ever see those men got each other's backs? I'll never forget, and I learned this myself when I did door to door for a living, selling solar panels in my early 20s, and going door to door on 100% commission. That is some tough work, and I did it for 3 years. And let me tell you something: the people that I worked with, I probably would have never hung out with them had it not been for that job. Mm-hmm. Because of that job, we were like this, and it's because we were in the trenches together. Men need to continue to take risks, get uncomfortable, and lean on each other through those moments, whether it be through play, through sport, through hobbies, through building, through creating together. But it's so easy to just sink back on that couch, get that video game out, get the porn out, get the social media out, hang out with the same 5 friends that I've done since high school since it's easy. People will choose the path of least resistance always. And that is almost always the reason why men and people, I should say, everyone feels stuck. They're doing the thing that's easy.
I agree with a lot of things that you said. I think one way to being vulnerable, for men at least, is asking for help.
Yes.
Asking for help. That I struggle with that. It's not that I can be vulnerable. I guess I can just share parts of me, and I can go very deep into conversation. That comes easy to me. Mm-hmm. And always been the case. But when it comes to, I can be very deep, holding a space for other people. I can hold space for anybody. Just to me, it comes like natural. When I've tried with other people, especially when I went through my divorce, especially with men, they had no idea they were just kind of freaked out. And to me, I didn't take it personally. And it's like, okay, I get it. You were not taught to this, and it doesn't come intuitive to you. So I get it. I guess if you're trying to be social, and that's why, to me, if I were going to approach dating, I'll just go on my hobbies, whether play pickleball or do hiking or go to a book club, anything that, to me, just create connections, but not with intention, because I've seen people, especially in the run club community, because I run a lot, they're just going to run club just to try to meet someone. It's like, no, you should go because you love the activity, and meeting people is byproduct of what you're doing, not the main point, because then you're not going to stick around if you don't like it. Now, when you point out how people's like, well, I have this, but I want a bit more with a list, I think people follow their ego a lot. It's just almost like, hey, if I'm a guy, I want to say, hey, look what I pull. If I'm a girl, it's like, look at my tall, rich guys. Like, if you're trying to follow your intuition, and I've been very intuitive about it, who I date or who I approach, is that you mentioned, again, you said, think...
to laugh, to lust.
Yeah, that one. I think people lead with lust at the beginning. I think even to some extent, both genders, but definitely more men. To me, in my mind, and I've always been this way, and it took me a while to accept this reality about myself, because I think, well, everyone is different. Maybe something's wrong with me. I would put lust last, because that one can build over time, because to me, sex is all about mental games. So the more trust you build with your partner, the more, even if kinks are different, or maybe your, sexual life is not like super hot and spicy, you can build that with over time. But building the kind of intellectual connection and having conversation, you either have it or you don't. If I cannot hold a deep conversation with someone, whether you're a guy or a girl, I don't want to be around you. I'm not stimulated in that way, where I can just spend my time with someone. So to me, the way that it will lead me personally, or the way that I use, like, to think and to laugh, loss would be the last one. I think that if people would focus more on the first two, knowing that the third one can be built over time. And I don't know, to me, that is a thing that in my mind, it's like, people have it backwards, I think. So I don't know.
I understand what you're saying, and yes, I mean, that's a really noble way of thinking. I got to hit you with the reality, though. Yeah. As a woman, and this might be controversial, but stay with me, I would feel unsafe with that, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Women, we have brothers. We have a lot of male friends. We've been around guys a lot. We understand how you guys think. And when a man puts the lust on the back end, to me, that's not being authentic. You're not living in your masculine power. You're ashamed of that sexual energy. Because here's the other thing that I don't think people are realizing. Women need two things to feel sexually turned on. For me to feel sexually turned on, I need two things. Not just me, women. They've studied this. Safety, physical safety, and desire. I have to have you desire me. There's a great book called A Billion Wicked Thoughts that talks about this. And they reference Girls Gone Wild. Remember Girls Gone Wild, Ultimate Rush, right? In between South Park episodes. So they asked, why did women do it? They're not getting off. They're definitely going to get paid. And a lot of them, it ruined their lives. Of course, they didn't realize that at the time. But why did women do it? What was in it for them? Women, this is one of the mechanisms that makes men and women's attraction circuitry different. Men, you can pretty much orgasm. I mean, of course, this isn't your favorite. But if a girl's just kind of there, as they call it, like the starfish or whatever, you can pretty much orgasm. Might not be the best sex in the world, but you can finish, right? Women, we can't do that. I gotta know that you desire me. It turns me on to be turned on. It turns me on that I'm turning someone else on. So when you put lust in the back seat, while that might spark a great friendship, I fear that method might be shooting you in the foot, where as a woman, I want to feel like I'm turning you on, even when we first meet. I don't want a man that's ashamed of his sexuality, and I want a man, because the two aren't, you can be multifaceted. You can be in your masculine sexual energy and be unapologetic about it, and you can be respectful and want those other things too. The two aren't mutually exclusive, right? So, I'd encourage you to lean into the masculine sexuality, understand that you are a man and that you should not feel like you have to apologize for feeling turned on and lusting after a woman, because at the end of the day, that woman that you're lusting after that's going to want you, she's going to want to feel that.
Okay, at first I was a little bit confused, but I understand how it came across. When I first meet women, as I said, I'm trying to build connection first, and then I'm not even interested in dating at that point. Now, when I feel like, you know what, I think that I'm into her, say, if we're friends, that's when I start feeling more sexually attracted to her. Not before, because to me, sure, I can see like a hot girl there, and if she has no substance, and if I cannot build, I guess, the attraction that I'm attracted to someone that I can connect and vibe with, and that happens to me over time. But then I don't even make a move because I'm not even sure. Because to me, when I date very intentional. It's like if I'm dating you, that means I can see a future. Now, it might not happen, or it might just fall apart, or it might just, or I might be wrong. But I'm already seeing, okay, I can see myself with you down the road, and that's when the sexual attraction really kicks in. Mm-hmm. But what I guess my point was that, and that's why I'm never planning to use the dating apps, because I cannot. To me, the stakes are too high right from the get-go that, I'm going on a first date and I need to start really creating a sexual tension that I don't feel it because I don't know the person. And what I've seen is women, if they don't feel that sexual tension, if they don't feel quote-unquote desire right from the get-go or from a first date, then it's like, you know what, I'm just going to move on. As you said, they want to feel desire. To me, it's like, well, I'll desire you once it's like, my brain's just wired weirdly. So that's the point. But then I do
listen,
see...
It's very noble of what you're saying. But I think what's happening is, so I'm going to quote Value of Others again. So what might be happening is that, women's chip to play in the sexual market is what? What do you want? So to want is to lack, right? To want is to lack.
Sure.
Right? So what do men lack? Sexual opportunity, mm-hmm. right? So what is their chip to play to get it? Commitment, baby. Mm-hmm. Stability and commitment. I'm going to play this chip and I'm going to be getting sexual opportunity. Women, what is our chip? Sex and beauty, right? We got sex. What do we want? Commitment and stability. So these are our chips, right? And I think naive negotiators will try and negotiate and start with what they want, right? And so that's why you'll never see men trying to negotiate and trying to offer up sexual opportunity for commitment. And you'll rarely see women offering the opposite. So when I'm dating a man, yes, am I saying like, oh, women just want to be hit on right off the bat and whatever? No. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if a man is too afraid to flirt and push that boundary a little bit and have that sexual, fun, playful energy right off the get, then that tells me that that man is too adverse to risk. And that goes back to negating my attraction circuitry and women wanting a brave man, hunters. That goes back to our physical attraction circuitry. I want a man that's not afraid to take risks. And you playfully reading the room, keyword reading the room, right? And reading my signals and knowing when to escalate and when to pull back, that's very erotic for me. But a man that plays it safe, a man that plays not to lose, is not going to turn me on as much as a man who plays to win.
And do you think that is what's happening nowadays?
Yes, by and large. And also, listen, I don't blame, women make it very hard. Women, and especially from the MeToo movement, I think the MeToo movement, by the way, was a great movement. I myself feel much safer walking around. And I think that we need to, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, we need to acknowledge the reality that women had to go through for a while. Do I think it went a little overboard? Yes. But I also think that men fall prey to perfectionism. And what happens is that perfectionism makes you fall victim to black and white thinking. So women don't want to be approached. Okay, I'm never going to talk to women again, right? Women are afraid of men. Okay, I'm never going to, I'm tapped out, right? Women want equality. Okay, I'm just going to treat them equal and make them pay for everything. Like, it's like this overcorrection that's like, no, come back. You're one of the good ones. Just help motivate the other ones that might not be so good. But your masculine energy is still welcome here. Just making sure that it's reading the room, reading signals. And the other thing, too, is men are so afraid to read signals and read the room because the only room that they're in is their house, where they're not around anyone else. The more you interact with other people, the more we are going to learn social cues, signals. And I'm not just talking about with women. It bleeds into everything. The men that are so afraid to talk to women, to escalate on women, they're typically the ones that aren't around people to begin with. Again, it's the isolated lifestyle that's killing you guys. Women, we're still doing things. We're still out. We still, because we have our friends. We have emotional connections outside of our romantic partnerships. Men, what I'm seeing is men after men wanting the same thing, friendship. But y'all just won't talk to each other. And I'm sorry, I cannot get on the camp of, well, that's men and men just can't do that. Yes, they can. Again, go back to see men going back to war, men playing on a same football team, kickball team, things that they're actually vulnerable because they could be bad at it. They could fall, they could trip, they could do, whatever. Like, for example, I one wheel. It's a weird hobby of mine. I love it. It's the little electronic skateboard, right, with a little thing. And there's festivals, and it's great. It's a great community. I love talking about it. I love being a part of it, right? But that's one hobby or community that I see a lot of men, I love you, man, talking about real things, talking about their problems, talking about, I sit with them, and of course I'm the only girl. They're talking about these ideas, and they're talking about projects, and I'm like, this is beautiful. Another scene that I've noticed that in is music festivals, right? Because that kind of culture also breeds that vulnerability, right? Especially because psychedelics are involved typically. So, and also, MDMA and things like that, right? Not promoting drug use, but it is what it is. I've seen more men hug it out and be like, I fucking love you, dude. I've never seen that in very many other communities. So again, if you want male connection and deeper connection, so you're not so reliant and needy, the thing that turns women off on women, do something that's vulnerable with other men. And naturally, it'll create conversation that more deep than just fucking football. You know what I mean? And this I truly believe is one giant step. Is it going to save everything? Of course not. But it's one step in the right direction for dating.
No, I'm glad that you mentioned the Me Too movement because I've been saying this quite a bit and got in trouble a couple of times for saying this. It needed to happen. But to me, it's one of the worst things that happened for young men in my mind. In what sense? There's this psychologist from the, I think, 50s or 60s, Alfred Adler. He had the theory of life lies, lies we tell ourselves to justify our behavior. Like, well, if I were smarter, I could make more money, right? So, but since I'm not smarter, that's why I'm not making enough money. The same thing with the Me Too movement. It's like, I'm afraid to approach because when I'm about to approach, I feel like that 12-year-old kid or 15-year-old kid that was rejected, right? So I'm going to say that I don't want to come across as a creeper. I don't want to be accused of sexual harassment. So I'm telling myself already that lie that because of the Me Too, every man that approaches a woman is going to be labeled as that. When in reality, that is such a perfect lie for men to tell themselves and also to tell society that women understand, yeah, I see why he's not approaching other women because of the Me Too. But in reality, if you're worried to be, if you're afraid to be seen as a creeper, you're not a creeper. Creepers are not afraid. They're just
Because they
creepers.
can read a room.
Exactly. So to me, it's like if you stop telling yourself that you might be rejected, sure, because you're coming across with a lot of anxiety, which is normal.
Mm-hmm.
But what you need to understand is like the lie that you're telling yourself is not true. The story you're telling yourself that you are going to be seen as a creeper or you're going to be seen as somebody who's trying to sexually harass somebody is not true. So even though I agree that Me Too movement needed to happen, a lot of victims, I do agree with that. As a byproduct, it affected a lot of men because it created the perfect life for them not to approach women.
But another way of looking at it is you're projecting your own traumas and blaming women for taking a stand for ourselves, and therefore you're no longer taking a stand for yourself. So, like, for example, what happened to you as a kid, being bullied and whatnot, fear of rejection, right? I empathize with that. I too was there. And it is tough. But as a group of women where we have been treated X amount, what would you have done in replacement of that? It had to have happened this way. I think, again, the problem lies in the overcorrection. The other thing, too, is flood the data. If you approached one girl and it went bad, that's 100% of your data points going, well, doesn't work. She was mean to me. But I've worked with some of the best pickup artists in the world. Like, they have tons of data. So all of a sudden, it doesn't seem so black and white. And let me tell you something, another thing too. I used to go door to door for a living, right? Like I said earlier. And something I learned is so true. And what is approaching if not knocking on someone's door? Let me tell you. 10-80-10 rule. 10% of people will be bitchy. Yep. Sorry, that's the way it works. But that's just 10%. Loud minority when it comes to the internet, right? Mm-hmm. But the 10%. And of course, people who love to exacerbate their problems, especially when it's a negative, right? She might have been mean. Oh, she was a fucking bitch. You know what I mean? Right? Because it makes for a better story. Yeah. But men cling on to those stories, but it never happened to them.
True.
Or maybe it had, again, one time or two times, right? The other thing, so 10% going to be bitchy. The other 10%, those are your low-hanging fruit. Those are the girls that are super fun. They're into you. The ones that are easy, right? Good times. Don't hate on them. They're great. They're necessary. 80% are indifferent. They're not going to do anything. You go up to them. They might just tell them, yeah, I have a boyfriend. Or thank you so much, I'm not interested. The reality is 80 to 90% of the time, you're not going to have a bad reaction. But the internet, and it just makes for a sexier story that also validates their decision to not do the hard thing. What a perfect scapegoat. Oh, she's going to call the cops on me. Oh, she's going to do this. Oh, so by this fantasy, it allows you to do the comfortable thing and not have to do anything? How convenient.
I know. I agree 100%. I'm trying to bring awareness to, it's like, hey, can you probably revisit that story that you've been telling yourself? Can you? Oh,
totally. And reframing everything. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge reframer, right? I'll hear it all of a sudden, guys will just talk negatively. I was like, time out, reframe that. Right? And then also put on your little speech and debate hat. What makes me creepy? Well, I'm really not that creepy. I'll be good to eject the conversation if she seems uncomfortable. I can read body language that well. Okay. Then what's the problem? Right? So I love it. I mean, and that's the other thing too, is having that good relationship with yourself. Because that's the other thing. So much of this is inner game. Right? The way that I attribute it is this. It's like there's offense, defense, and the observer. All elements of a game. Right? Coincidentally enough. So offense is all the things you do and say to women, right? And a lot of guys, they want to start there. Because that I could just say something, give me a line, give me something to do, right? And I'm just going to do that, right? But first of all, you'd be performing, because if your little lines and your little routines, right, that's going to run out eventually. You can't perform forever. So then you got your defense, which is all the ways you feel and heal. So like you, I commend you, taking a look at your life and being like, listen, like I've had some shit, and everyone has, and awareness is the first step to healing. And then the third one is the observer. Observing where you're at in life. If this person is showing up for me, if I'm showing up well for that person, right? Am I in the right spaces? Am I doing the right things, right? And so all of these elements are so important. They all work together. And this is what I do with my program. So what you just said is talking to yourself. It's as simple and as simple and as hard as this. Talking to yourself with kindness. I always give men a spectrum. On the spectrum of drill sergeant and kind, loving parent we all wish we had. How do you talk to yourself? Because if it's more drill sergeant, that's the first place you got to look. Because they did this study. They took these elementary school kids and they go, okay, this kid, and this kid, these kids are gifted, right? And then at the end of the year, they call these studies back. This is a study done by Dr. Rob Kelly, who's also been on my podcast. They took these kids, and the teacher's like, they performed so much better. They're like, yeah, no, we don't know if they're actually gifted or not. We just told them that. Now all their teachers are treating them like they're gifted. Their parents are treating them like they're gifted. They feel like they're gifted. The way you talk to yourself is the way you show up in the world. And the people that you invite into your world are going to be a reflection of that. So the reality is, too, is like women are simultaneously the most confident and the most secure and the most insecure people in the world, right? We're secure because what? We're beauty. We get, told we're beautiful all the time. But we're also insecure because guess what? That beauty's ticking, right? And so when we're with a man where his entire validation is dependent on us, that's a heavy load. And I can't learn anything from that. And we can't grow together in that.
And that's just an illusion, by the way.
Right.
So in that, women get excited when they're with a man that's very confident, because I can glean from that. We can grow from that. Yeah. I'm in a constant state of awareness and reframing, all the time. At the end of the day, I feel that, we have the power to be the architects of our reality anyway. So just might as well, if that's the only thing in your control, you can shape your own reality and be exposed to better things in life just by reframing. And I was a surgeon doing my own life for 31 years. And like, you know what? This shit it's not working. So I switched to be more compassionate, have more self-compassion, more kindness. But Jamie, I wish we could go for longer, because I still have more questions, and it happens all the time. It happens all the time. But where can people find you, work with you, follow your podcast, your content, your coaching, anything?
Yes, thank you. So Jamie Date, Jamie Date, on Instagram, on all the socials. I am actually recording my first season of my podcast called Ask a Fish. It should be coming out this fall or winter. And we are I do a psilocybin mushroom ceremony retreat every October. And if you want coaching, I also do private coaching as well as group coaching. I do all my own coaching. I don't have a team. You'd be working directly with me. And you can go to my social media page and book a call to see if coaching is right for you from there.
Awesome. Yes. And Jamie, I'll have to bring you back at some point, because I just ran out of time with the questions. Great conversation. And
thank you so much. Awesome.